WP-Get Web Dev Tutorials for all user levels. Okay, so this tutorial is in response to a question asked over here in the Elementor Global Elementor Community Facebook group. And the author, Bob, here wanted to know some ideas on how we could get this logo as an image on the page to blend in and stick with the header up the top here as you scroll the page. So the tutorial I've got here is just showing one way of doing that. There's many ways you can do these things. I'm just going to show one way, and for the purpose of the demonstration, the end result is I'm going to have my little logo here blend into this header up the top here as I scroll the page. As we scroll down, it disappears. See the content on the page as we scroll up behind the header. Then it blends in and becomes part of the header. Now you can have that slide in, you can have it resize, you can have whatever you want depending on the CSS, but this is the principle. Okay, so how we achieve this, I've actually created a tutorial which I'll publish, and I will put a link to this in the video on YouTube. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a new page, and what we're going to use is the canvas template. You would normally apply the CSS rules to an actual header, but I don't want to mess up my dev site, so I'm creating a blank page. I'll put a dummy header on the page just with a section, and then we'll use it as a canvas section, and then we'll go through that. So let's head over to my actual, where are we? So this is my editor for that page, and I'm going to clear out everything on this page. So delete all the content. Okay, so this is my brand new page. I've given it a name. I've called it the logo transition to header, and I've set my page layout to Elementor Canvas, which gets rid of the headers and the footers. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is create a single section with a single column, and I'm going to run through this over here. And we want to set the vertical line to middle, horizontal line to space between. Explain that as we go. Let's just do that now. So I'm going to go to the column. I'm going to set my vertical line to middle and my horizontal space between. Then we're going to set a background color to contrast with the site logo you're going to use. Now my site logo has got a bit of white in it, so I'm going to select a darker sort of a background. So in my style tab, set the background. Maybe I'll just pick this text here, and then I'll darken that up a little bit. Okay, so coming back to here, we're going to drag a site logo to the column. This could be an image. You'd have to change the custom CSS if you use an image widget, but I'm going to use a site logo widget here. I'm going to put logo. I grab my site logo and drag it across into there. Now it's not displaying correctly. I'm actually using SVGs. It's not going to display correctly here. So what we're going to do is set our advanced width to inline auto, and then we're going to set our style width to 100%. So I'm going to go back to here, go to advanced, 100%, inline auto, style, set that to 100% width, and that gives me my logo here. As I say here, you might need to adjust your width. Instead of inline auto, you might use a custom width. It depends on what your logo is and how wide you want it. The next thing, I'm going to drag a nav menu to the column. So back over here, nav, drag it to the column, and we're going to set the, again, width to inline auto and style it as needed. Now I'm actually going to, I missed a bit in the tutorial. I've made a very simple menu, so I've only got 3 items. Go to my advanced, set it to inline auto, which is going to push it over to the right. Now this is the reason we set the column horizontal aligned to space between, so that when we set these elements here to inline auto, it's going to stick the first one on the left, the last one on the right, and give us all a space in the middle. If we had a third element in here, it would distribute them evenly, with the first one being on the left, the last one being on the right. It's a simple way to just lay these things out. So the simple styling I'm going to do, all I'm going to do is set my color to white so it fits in with my background color. This tutorial is not about styling, it's about what happens with this logo over here. So we've got our styling done there. So the next thing we want to do is go to our advanced custom CSS. We're going to grab some CSS from below and paste it in there. Back over here, go to our column, sorry, our section, advanced, custom CSS, back over to our tutorial. I'm going to grab this CSS from down here. Like all of my tutorials, all you have to do is left click once and then it'll copy to the clipboard. Come back to your custom CSS and paste that in there. And you can see straight away my logo opacity has gone down to 0 because what I'm telling it is my site logo, set the opacity 0 with a transition of 0.5 seconds. You set this whatever you like. What I'm then going to do is when we have sticky effects applied, I want my opacity to be 1 over 0.5 seconds. All right, so the next step is we want to go to our advanced motion effects and set it to sticky top. Advanced motion effects, set it to sticky top. So it's our section being sticky top. And what we're going to do is add an offset effect of, I think I said over here to 300. We'll set that to 300. Oops, wrong one. This is the effects offset. We want to be on 300. And for some reason that has now come back. I'm not sure if that's the editor. Let me have a look here. That's correct. Okay. So that is correct. I'm not sure why that's showing up in the editor like that. All right, let's go back to the tutorial. Now we need to add a content section. We're going to add another section. I'm going to set a contrasting background on that for our logo. A section here. And we'll set that to the background color of, say, this text here. We might make that, we'll just leave that as it is. And we want to set some padding on the top and bottom so we've got something to scroll. So I'm going to go back to my section, advanced, and I'm going to set maybe 80 at the top and 80 at the bottom. Give us some padding around that. The next thing we'll do is we're going to grab a logo image. Now this could be any image. I'm just going to use the same as I did in the header. So we're going to use the site logo. So we'll do the same thing here. Site logo. Let's set exactly the same settings as we did in the header. Okay, so this is pretty much the same as that. We want to set our width to inline auto. So we've set the settings on this site logo, pretty much the same as what we set them in the header. Okay, now we need something more stuff to scroll. So I'm going to grab a text editor widget and fill it with some dummy text. So text editor, widget, make that white as well. I'm going to head over to a lorem ipsum generator. And generate, say, 10 paragraphs. Select from the top here to the bottom, copy that, and head back over. The content. Now, whenever I copy and paste from a website, I always use this paste as plain text box. And that stops it from picking up all the styling, underlying styling from a Word document or a web page or whatever. It's just plain text. So if we look here, it's all plain text. Sometimes when you paste in, when you're copying from websites or documents, you end up with a whole bunch of styling in there, which we don't want. So let's actually make this look a bit different by adding some columns to it. Give it some spacing in the columns. So we've got 3 columns of that. And I'm going to update and view this page in a new tab. Okay, there we go. Sure why we've got this spacing at the top here. Let's have a look. Still not happy with why that is doing this. So motion effects. There we go. Here's my problem here. I've got an offset of 3, which I didn't realize. So let's just set that back to 0. So the offset here for your sticky is how far from the top or bottom that's going to sit. I accidentally put a 3 in there. The effects offset is how many pixels you've got to scroll before it adds this Elementor Sticky Effects class to that sticky element, in this case the section. So it's updating that. Back to our page. If I scroll here, keep scrolling, it's not applying that quick enough for me. So I want it to apply a little bit sooner than that. So I'm going to head back here. I'm going to go to my motion effects. I'm going to make that a bit less. So let's make that say 200 pixels. F5. Okay, there we go. So if I scroll now, when I scroll by 200 pixels, it appears. That looks a bit better, doesn't it? As it gets to there, it sort of appears. It kind of transitions into the header. Now, at the moment, you might notice that the logo goes behind the header, and when it gets to 200 pixels, it comes in. I actually quite like that. But let's say you want that to go above the header. All you have to do is grab that image there, go to your Advanced tab, and set the z-index to, say, 99. So anything that's above whatever the header is. Refresh this page. Now as I scroll, see the logo here is actually on top of the header. And then when I get to 200 pixels, it then comes in. So that can look quite messy. So one effect you might have, for example, is you might set the offset, motion effects for our header. You might set this to say 350. Okay, now as we scroll, it sits on top there, but the other one hasn't come in yet. We go past, and then it comes in. So just finding the right settings for you. Let's say we make that 300, for example. Fresh. So that's actually pretty good. So we don't get a double up of the logo, but as it passes the top of the header, it's coming in. So that's preferably, it's up to you what your preference is, whether you want this to go behind the header or above the header. Just change the z-index, play around with the effects offset, and that'll work for you. So hopefully that is something that is of value and that you can use in your designs. Thank you.